Welcome to the 148th broadcast of the T-Row Show. It's your host, Keith. Got John with me.
Good morning, folks.
All right. I did say 148th. Okay. We're good to go there. Now, what we'd like to talk about today is what just came up on in the newspaper, which is the affidavit published. Now, we didn't even know that Southern Poverty Law Center had put Reign of Heaven Society on their site as some kind of anti-government group. We didn't know that. We're not the Reign of Heaven Society. We just want to let you know that. There's no such thing as Reign of Heaven Society. There is a faith-based organization called Reign of the Heavens Society, but not Reign of Heavens. It's a misnomer. However, it's close enough that we do have to act on it. We do have to say something about it. But the affidavit is published against the directors of Southern Poverty Law Center with more parties added. Okay, and we're going to go over that with you today so that you can get a bird's eye view of what's going on with the country. It is time for everybody to know this information. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a couple of pages off a book that you probably have never heard of. It's from a long time ago. I'm not going to mention the book because I don't want to give them any more ammunition as to where this information is coming from and more ability to go after it and try to get rid of it. So I'm just going to read it to you. A couple of pages to give you an idea of what's going on in the country. And then when you see this, it'll probably, I'd say scare the crap out of you. All right. Prime directive. The merchant must find a market for his goods. The historical geographical center of world trade is India, its products, spices, gems, and gold. The merchant must establish a king to protect him and promote his interests. To ensure a constant supply for trade goods, the merchant hires a king to protect and keep order in his trade markets. The king is a key part of the trade system called feudalism. Feudalism maximizes production. Okay, so many people thought, and this is off the book here, many people thought feudalism was something that you would, it was more of a subject of the king type deal. But the king did not get that idea himself. Okay, and they had a misunderstanding of what feudalism was. All right, it assigns every man to a job which he becomes very good at performing. So if I say that, then we're talking about the Ford Motor Company and their assembly line. You'll see that the Ford Motor Company did not get their idea of the assembly line from Ford. That actually came from an 1897 meeting, and I'll tell you what that is in a few minutes. In time, feudalism caused maximized production, which in time saturated Indian markets. In other words, if you have 20 basketballs and you've got 20 teams, you're pretty much evened out on your basic economics. If you have 100 basketballs in 20 teams, you have to charge less for the basketball. If you have 1,000 basketballs, it just goes down to nothing because you have too many basketballs. So you got to find another place to sell your basketballs. So you got to go to other countries and promote the basketball game, get everybody hooked on it so you can sell them basketballs. That's the whole key to finding new markets. Okay, so before the merchant can trade in a market, he must first secure the blessing of its god, or the people may kill him. Feudalism's overproduction forced Indian markets to open markets in other lands. Often the gods of these foreign nations were hostile, and they ordered their people to kill the Indian merchants. And why was that? Is because the Indian merchants were creating idols. They're idol worshippers. That's what they are. Being killed removes the profit from the trade for the merchant. So this is a very real problem to the trader. The problem with foreign gods was solved by the merchants of India developing a trade religion and sending missionaries to take this religion and with it to change the minds of foreign gods. So what do they have to do? They have to come to this country and change the mind of Jesus. Okay? to make them more friendly and receptive to Indian merchants and their trade. Worship, sex, and drugs, rock and roll, music, the whole thing. Okay, the religion developed by the Indian missionaries to help their trade effort was called Hinduism. The missionary part of Hinduism is called Buddhism. Okay, so you have a bunch of Buddhists that came over to Chicago in 1897. And I remember reading this story. I can't remember where I read the story, but I did read the story in the 90s. I'm sure I can find it in the paperwork, but I'm not going to go and dig through it. What it was is that this is why Chicago is still so corrupt today, is because they made a deal with these Buddhist missionaries from India in 1897. That's where they got feudalism from, and that's where Ford got it. Okay. Buddhist missionaries are charged with the basic work of changing the attitudes of the people who live in new markets from hostility to acceptance. This is done by teaching potential customers Dharma, acceptance. Okay, Dharma now, on the opposite of that is hate. So when you have people in there and they're saying, "Oh, you're preaching hate," or you're a hate group, all they want is hate. What they're doing is, number one, they are targeting your name to trash it, create a enemy out of you so they can get more money, more donations. That's number one. That's number one goal. Okay, the second is they, in order to do this, they have to get you to in other words, anything that is the opposite of dharma or acceptance is considered hate, and now you're a danger to who? The Hindu and his merchant and his wares. So they have to shame you into acceptance, learning dharma and peace and love. Dharma changes hostile separatist religions into warm, friendly integrationist religions. The customer loses nothing. He keeps his own God, his own customs and rituals. It makes money. The Dharma only asks that its customer converts adopt two simple beliefs. All gods are basically the same. I remember when they used to say that crap back in the 90s. And since all gods are basically the same, there is no reason not to tolerate all religions without regard to race, creed, or national origin. Now, how many people say we do not discriminate based on race, creed, national origin, sex, all this other stuff? Everybody seems to have this one statement, but no one seems to know where it came from. Well, it came from Hinduism, which has got, I think, it's 640 million gods in it. It's crazy. Okay. If a land targeted by the merchant learns those two simple concepts, all gods are one, and toleration, it then follows that the land and its people will also accept the international merchant and his wares. Okay, the merchant and his wares must be tolerated before the trader can trade. You're being taught tolerance. Tolerance, that's the term. We must learn tolerance. That's how they are. This is why the Buddhist missionaries see it to the native dharmatized churchmen living in targeted markets are provided with big houses and big cars. The missionary agents of Indian merchants spend tens of billions spreading dharma, which in turn hundreds of billions in trade profits. The Buddhist missionary and his converts among the native clergy must obtain customer goodwill before the merchant can trade. Okay, the merchants' media control customer attitudes to prevent rebellion against king, priests, and merchants. So formerly, a steady flow of gifts to local dignitaries provided a goodwill needed to protect the merchant interest. Later, the purchase of local media through native agents provided the same service. The media glorified the merchant's agent, who was elected king. Thus, the merchant had his own king to rule his market. And now the merchant media vilified the merchant's enemies, and the people were taught to scorn them also. Priests who blessed the king and merchant were praised with their wealth and praised and their wealth increased. Priests who cursed the king and merchant were ignored and remained poor. Oh, that's just a couple of pages there, and that gives you an idea of what this is all about and what SPLC is doing. This is how they operate, okay? Now, the people that actually started SPLC One of them, I think, Morris Dees and all them, they were, I mean, just worshiping this guy that started it. I think, if you can remember who it was, John.
I don't remember who the first one that started it was.
But he used to blow up federal buildings. I know that. He did start this, or that was the guy that they emulated. In other words, the guy they wanted, they worshipped, and they're hardcore. Well, I'll show you in a minute. All right, the affiant states that Southern Poverty Law Center doing business as P.O. Box 548, Montgomery, Alabama 33104, which is nothing more than a USPS business. So when the Southern Poverty Law Center went down in popularity, the DOJ came in and said, "Hey, we need to use this. They've got a good working platform here to steal money, by the way." And we need to try to help take them over and revamp them. So we're going to vouch for them and all this other kind of crap, right? So, and they knew that they were mischaracterizing people. They knew they were violating the basics of due process, and they were using other people's business to make money. They were vilifying one business to so people will get scared and give money to Southern Poverty Law Center so that they will go ahead and destroy or get more donations so they could spend more money. As I think Dee's has got a multi-million-dollar home. They don't do anything they say they do. They don't help anybody. They just scare businesses so people will give them money and call them hate. Okay, hate groups, hate watch, hate this, hate map, all this kind of crap. It says a violent religious organization that practices the trade religion known as Hinduism and Buddhism that preaches what it calls tolerance around the country on behalf of India. Believe it or not, they are working for India. Because why? You'll see it in a minute. In their IRS form, they teach tolerance. There's only one religion in the world that does that, and that is Hinduism. That is their basic thing. That's their program. Okay. The affiant states that's is supported. The Southern Poverty Law SPLC is supported by the U.S. Department of Justice front organization that targets Christians, conservative organizations, and classifies those organizations as hate groups, anti-government, and other classifications such as intolerant that do not convert to Buddhism, also known as tolerance. Found on page 43 of 59 of the Southern Poverty Law Center IRS record Exhibit B. That is in this this PDF. Okay, and yes, they do have the term that they teach tolerance. That's only one religion in the world that teaches tolerance. That's it.
Another way you could say that tolerance is politically correct.
Mm-hmm.
Political correctness is teaching tolerance.
Is Dharma, Buddhism, tolerance? Yeah, every bit of it. Also, pronouns. I think this pronoun speech crap is also tolerance of this and tolerance of that, and don't single anybody out because of their sex and all this craziness that's going on. Now, keep in mind that the Illuminati. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. Just remind me about it. Okay, the affiant states the Southern Poverty Law Center reports its findings to local police all over the country, wherein those targeted organizations are on a domestic terrorist list known as a sovereign citizen list. So the police can assassinate those persons at will on behalf of the Hindus of India in an effort to protect Hindus' markets and commerce within the U.S. That is absolutely 100% true. Exactly what they do. They go on a list. Cops watch them all the time. Got to watch out for these crazy groups. Now, here's what they do. It says the affiant states Southern Poverty Law Center doing businesses is a political organization, also a political organization known as communism, socialism, socialist, and socialism, to include other varieties such, but not limited to Marxism, Fabian Society, and Leninism. Why? Because they reclassify things. They reclassify companies as hate groups. They have no right to do that whatsoever. None whatsoever. They can't come in and classify a company that they're not a part of. It's a complete trespass on another company. Okay? So that was all created by Hinduism and Buddhism when missions were created to spread Dharma in markets that were not yet tolerant of the thousands of Hindu gods. Now, keep in mind, folks, where do you guys get this? This sounds crazy. Okay, remember the Beatles? And the Beatles said, I can't remember which one of them said it. Said something stupid. They said, "Wow, we're more what do you call it? Uh, we're more popular than Jesus Christ." Oh my God, they had to get the hell out of here. They were threatened. They were going to kill them, murder them, burn them in the streets. And I'm not kidding. The Beatles were chased out of here, out of this country. They were chased all the way to their airplane. No exaggeration. Well, where did they go? They went to India. And all of a sudden, 4 years later, they come back and everything's fine. How the hell did that happen? Crazy, right? Free sex, free love, free drugs, all that kind of crap. That's all Hinduism. Every bit of it. The whole 60s was based on it because they were allowed in here. Okay? It says the United States Department of Justice supports and protects the Southern Poverty Law Center with federal tax money. And that's right, that is in their IRS tax form. To assassinate those inhabitants under the law of armed conflict that have not yet converted or showed traits of tolerance. So you say one thing about anybody that's different than you, and you're not tolerant, and they come after you. That's what happens. It's a friggin' horrible existence. Now, the affiant states that the Southern Poverty Law Center, doing businesses, is placed an organization called Reign of Heaven Society on its newsletter, Exhibit C, under the classification of anti-government, wherein the code means organization is not tolerant and targeted for assassination and murder. And that's exactly what happens. If you are on that list, if your name is on that list, every time you get pulled over, there will be 15 cops, at least forward and back and all the way around your car with guns drawn. If you're on that list, SPLC does that direct from DOJ, that is on a mission from India to protect Indian trade markets here. That's what's going on. They're calling them communist, socialism, all that kind of crap. That's a cover. How many movie stars go to India to get married? Katy Perry did. Why would she go to India to get married? Unless her, being a part of the Illuminati, and India had a lot in common. So what's happening is you got Satanists over here. Now people are somehow being tolerant of Satanism. Why? I have no clue. All they do is sacrifice children, drink adrenochrome, and all that kind of crap. However, they're very close and protected by who? Hindus. Hindus are devil worshippers. They always have been. They're idol worshippers, the whole deal. Okay, so the United States Supreme Court supports and protects India's trade markets within the United States, with its false claim of interpretation rights, Exhibit D. We have proof of that, and that's in this document. And I'll show you in a minute. Has a history of placing persons in a condition of attempted murder. Okay, until the murder is completed, usually through the local police, state troopers, sheriffs, FBI, or U.S. Marshals, after a campaign of gang stalking, which a sheriff will come back and say, "Oh no, we're just sort of doing surveillance." But what they'll do is they'll go right in front of your house and they slow way down, and they'll sit and do this intimidation tactic crap every single day until you either put a bullet in your head or you start getting violent, which is what they want. So they can kill or murder you because they're told by SPLC that you want to murder their family using one simple story that happened in 2010. And they've been relying on that same story since that time. And you would think that cops, being investigators, would investigate SPLC and put it together, but they don't. They do no investigation. They do no thinking on the matter. They don't even look at it. They don't look at anything. They just take what they say because it scares the crap out of them. They've got this seminar they put together for about 2 hours. By the time a cop is out of there, He is scared to death. He thinks you're wanting to kill his sons and daughters. Anybody that says, hey, this is wrong or that's wrong about the U.S., oh man, you might as well just said, put a gun to your head and start shooting, because that's what they're about to do. Okay. It says a campaign of gain stalking, which in turn paid through workman's compensation with a claim of post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay. So they will murder you, and then they do a workman's comp claim and get about 30,000 a year for the rest of their life under post-traumatic stress disorder. That's how they pay off their assassins, by the way. Okay, now that the Reign of the Heaven Society was not granted to the Southern Poverty Law Center to be used as a tool to be used to scare would-be donors into donating, because nobody in the Reign of the Heaven Society is a anti-government, because the Reign of the Heaven Society is not a government organization. It's not a political organization. It's a temple. It's a religious organization. It was derived from the Church of James, the first church in Jerusalem after the death of Yahushua, Jesus, and resurrection. So that's what happened. Here's some other things. Washington Examiner opinion: the Southern Poverty Law Center is a scam, and it is. You'd think police officers would realize this. It was wheels come off the Southern Poverty Law Center. This is when Morris Dees got in trouble for a bunch of crap. Is second founder resigns. The founders resign. Declare war on Trump and Michelle Obama aides. Okay. And SPLC taps lawyer who interfered with Smollett case to investigate workplace harassment allegations. Okay, so that is all that, and all of the. This is a list of Hindu temples, folks, in the United States. That's the company, by the way. In every state, there's Alabama. I'm going to go through this quite, hopefully, quickly. There's Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas. Look at this California, man. Look at how many temples they have in California. And look how big they are. They're enormous. This thing is huge. It keeps going and going. Look at that. Enormous friggin' temple. This is millions. So what you're used to seeing is poor little Indian children with their hand out and go, feed me, can I have money? Can I have? You're used to that. You don't realize how rich India is. Billions upon trillions upon trillions upon trillions of dollars. Riches from thousands of years ago. Unbelievable, priceless things. You have no idea. And because they're told that, what is the best way, the best tool for a rich man to stay safe? Tell everybody he's poor. By the way, this is still California. Now you understand why California's so messed up? Here's California. Oh yeah, we're still in California. It keeps going and going. We just moved on. Okay. There's Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, big old place right there. There's all your statutes that you're supposed to bow down to, I guess, when you're in part of this crap. There's Florida. That's 4, 5 pages. There's a bunch there. Georgia. These are all temples around the country. Thousands. I'm not kidding. Thousands. Look at that thing. You got all these homeless people, but they can afford these temples, can't they? They have no interest in helping this country at all. What they do have an interest in is putting everybody in so much debt that they control you. Buy my crap. It goes on and on. I mean, whoever did this was an unimaginable amount of, there's Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri. Look at that. Nevada only has 2. They don't put up with that crap. Nebraska has 1. That's the Bible Belt, by the way. New Jersey, pages upon pages in New Jersey. New York, pages upon pages there too. There's a bunch. But the amount of money that's put into these things is almost ridiculous. Okay, what wasn't that this wasn't it the first or second commandment? Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Yep,
Hmm.
that it was.
You wonder why the country is in such bad shape, right? I mean, not you, but I mean people listening.
Hmm.
Look at this thing. Imagine the work and amount of work and money that went into this. It goes on and on, folks. And you have to maintain these. That means you've got to have a lot of money. All these temples, you're probably looking at $1 million, if not more, a day just to keep these temples going. Okay, here's one thing I'll show you. All right, this is the Festival of Colors. Okay, if you don't think that this is in Hollywood, here it is right here. This is the Britney Spears slumber party video. The Festival of Paint or Colors, called the Festival of Colors is what they call it. See this crap all over the wall? They don't realize that they're actually just pushing Hinduism. Well, a lot of them don't. At least the people here don't. It goes on and on. There it is, right there. That's what it is. And if you look at this, this is the Festival of Paint. Same thing. This is in Utah, Spanish Fork. So they do a lot of this stuff around the country. Kids just having fun, man. They're just putting colors on themselves. They don't know what they're doing. They have no idea. You know, most of them don't. They're raised in that stuff, so what they're raised in it, they have no idea that they're like seriously violating things. Okay, and this is their tax return. Okay, this is the IRS e-file signature authorization 2017, and this is where we get the thing of doing business as right here. That's why we put it in the affidavit. They're doing business as PO Box 548. They're doing business as a USPS entity. Okay, and a lot of this, I'll show you what we found. It's unbelievable. If you look at the evidence, you'll see that they are funded by the U.S. and they claim 501c3 and they claim to help everybody, but they're not helping anybody. All they're doing is they're going around and spreading dharma with threat. That's all that's going on. They're doing it on behalf of a foreign country, which, by the way, if you look at it from a country point of view, it's treason. Every one of them are violating the law and treason. But you know what else is new, right? Okay, if you didn't believe me on the tolerance thing, here it is: Clark County, sorry, County School District, Las Vegas, teaching tolerance. It's right there. Friends of New Haven Academy, teaching tolerance, tolerance, tolerance. This goes on and on. This is a religion. They're teaching tolerance. It's a religion. It's a Hindu religion. And they have no right to do that. They don't have a right to claim themselves as to who they are. That's violating their. That's bait and switch. You're not telling everybody what who they are. Okay, when we first became aware of this, it seems that everyone knows that Southern Poverty Law Center, wherein that it is a propaganda front for Communist Party and Lawyers Guild, and further supports Antifa, an international terrorist organization. They're using all this right here. This is all being supported by George Soros, that has a lot of ties into India. Just I don't think anybody even realizes that. So did Hitler, by the way. Hitler had a lot of ties with India. The swastika comes directly from India. That was where the symbol derived from, and they were set in place with a lot of that. So they do a lot of things just to trade their crap. And I said the local police uses SPLC's list to create a profile on people and places those people on a domestic terrorist list where other police officers will see this on the records and attempt to agitate the accused into violence so they can shoot them and murder them. And that's exactly what they do. This is called political assassination, which is also called attempted murder. It says, first, there is no such thing as a reign of heaven society. However, there is such an entity called the Reign of the Heaven Society, where it is a religious organization. Further, the Reign of the Heaven Society is an international organization that and not organized within the United States, nor within any states within states. Okay, so the society was derived from the country known as Reign of the Heavens, that is named in the New Testament. It's right here, Reign of the Heavens. Okay, so there's no such thing as reign of heaven, and I think we covered this before as far as Australia was concerned and all that crap a couple of euros a little while ago. Reign of the Heaven Society has no political association within the United States, so there's no way it can be an anti-government. The Reign of the Heaven Society is also derived from the First Church of James, brother of Jesus. SPLC has 30 days to remove its designation of the Reign of the Heaven Society from its list. Otherwise, a human rights violation complaint will be filed against its owner for many counts of attempted murder and religious persecution. Monetary damages will further be filed against SPLC's owner in an effort to punish SPLC for the continual contempt for international law. Well, we went ahead and filed it and published it a couple of days later because we don't think they're going to remove it anyways. They're money-hungry, grubbing people, and they love to throw people under the bus just to get somebody to be scared. And we got to give them money because they're fighting that. And trust me, they're not fighting it. Not fighting anything. I think they have a couple of people that do censorship crap on Facebook. And so when they say you're a hate group, what they're saying is you're not tolerant. You're not a Buddhist. You're not a Hindu. That's what they're telling you. None of that made any sense to people that don't understand Hinduism and Buddhism. They wouldn't understand that history, where that all comes from, and how rich that country really is. They would say, well, that doesn't make any sense. What do you mean hate? What are you talking about? What a hate crime? What the hell is a hate crime? Nobody knows. Or how do you legislate hate? Doesn't make any sense until you realize it's Hinduism and Buddhism. They're forcing a religion on you. I believe the full plan is this. Okay, this is what I believe because I've just been seeing patterns in history. India is set up between Muslims and Hindus. Muslims and Hindus live side by side. They fight all the time and all that crap, but they do. They live side by side. Both, in my opinion, are devil worshippers. Okay, they're trying to set that up here. That's why they're bringing Muslims over here. They only have to set in a couple of seeds, and then they start having a lot of babies. And they've got thousands of temples in the country, and they teach everybody Dharma. Okay, yoga is Hinduism. It's all part of it. They have some commercials that make fun of guys that come out, and they always go to a guru. He comes out in a sheer robe type deal. They make fun of that. They're pushing it constantly. If you understand what it is, you'll see it everywhere. And once you start, you open your eyes to it. So the people, I'm not saying that the police officers do this on purpose because they're told, they just believe what they're told. They really don't do any research or study on anything of their own. They just do what they're told, and then they go out and impose that crap on people, not realizing they just got themselves into a lot of trouble, spiritually and legally. So there's the rest of the story. If you want to know what was really going on in this country, that's what really is really going on. The corruption goes to the core, by the way. And the World Trade Federation, I think Trump was talking about, he got this billions of dollars from them in some kind of lawsuit that he made. That's India. Hinduism. All ships in the world, commerce ships, go through India. Who started the Iraq War and who's been on the Afghan war? India. They're the ones that want to control the poppy fields because they've been running spices for years, for centuries. They wanted Iraq to be above the 38th parallel so they could run caravans directly through rather than running ships down the southern part of Africa, having to go around. And Saddam Hussein wasn't having that. So they moved him up, and so they could get straight through, go through Jordan, go right into Israel, and out into the sea. They just saved a lot of money and a lot of shipping fees and all that to get their wares where they wanted to go. See, when you know the history of these countries, it's easy to figure out what's going on when they have an international this and international that. Okay, my guess with Iran, I think Iran wants to get involved in the poppy seed business. Okay, I think they want to get involved in the heroin business. It's just what I think, and I'm saying it's true. I'm not saying I have any proof of that, but that's what I believe they're doing. I know the U.S. is in it because that's what they said right in the freaking news. The second those guys landed, within 6 months, they're remarking on how well they're doing in the poppy seed production or poppy field production. They upped that. I don't know how many tons. I don't know how many they're doing now. Okay, so I know that the U.S. has a lot of connections with India. Go look at some of the history there. Go look at find out what's going on. Find out what Trump is doing. Go look it up. You'll see a lot of similarities. But how is it that you've got the least amount, 2,000 Hindu temples in a country that's not Hindu?
And they got something like 3,000 Muslim mosques.
Yeah,
So
it's not Muslim country.
That makes a total of 5,000.
That is not a Muslim or Hindu country.
That's right.
What I think they're trying to do is turn this into a Muslim Hindu country. Both not good. And the reason why they don't like the Christians and all that, if you look at throughout its history, the Christians don't put up with their crap, and they get exposed and made fun of. So, if you start thinking about it, folks, you start putting it together, you'll start seeing it everywhere, and you'll realize it because it's there. You were raised with it, so it's kind of like something that's in the room that you've been there for a long time and just really didn't notice it, or you don't watch it, or you don't pay attention to it because it's been there for a long time. You get used to it. Just like how do you get up there to a bird and watch them have their chicks and eggs and lay the eggs and all that? Well, you drill a hole in the tree, you put a piece of plexiglass in there, and you move the camera 1 foot a day up until the bird gets used to you and they don't pay attention to you anymore. That's kind of like how this works. Who knew that there were this many Hindu temples in the country? Out and out, right in the face of the Most High, mocking him with violations of the first commandment, right there in your midst. And you wonder why over 60 million children have been murdered. You wonder why all this stuff is going on. All you got to do is, I guess what Nancy said one day. All you got to do is say no. That's it. That's enough. We've seen it. That's all. And this is what you get for being tolerant. Your country basically turned into a crap hole. Anything else that we're missing, John?
Only one thing that I'd add to it would be the red, white, and blue flag. It belongs to the East India Trading Company.
That ran into India.
That's right, that it did.
Oh, I believe Columbus thought he was in India, and that's why he called the American Indians Indians.
He was looking for a water route to India.
That's right.
Yep.
That's Columbus. And now you know why the Vatican has so many statues and how so many, gods and all these things. You know why they do that? It's because they work with India. It's real easy. And Israel is the doorway to the West. It's geographically set there. So that's why they do that. So if you start thinking about it, you'll realize what's going on. And it's all just about selling crap. Okay, it's so you can go to the store, swipe a piece of plastic, and get stuff. That's all it's for. How much we can sell, how much money we can make, to get you to accept their stuff, buy their rugs, buy their wallpaper and all this other crap that they make. If I were to go into it, well, actually, I could. The Hindu, I'll just say real quick, the Indians, when they come over from India, they're actually given loans and that they don't have to pay back. And when they go back home, they go back within 20 years. Yes, they run the gas stations and all that kind of stuff. That's what they buy into. They strip the houses. I used to have to put the houses together myself, back together, put drywall back up because they take the drywall. I say, oh, that eventually came into, oh, I walk in the place and they go, oh, so all the electricity's gone, all the wires are gone, all the fixtures are gone, most of the drywall, if not all the drywall is gone. I'm looking at studs everywhere. And the first house I found that into when I was working in Florida, the first house I walked into that was like that. I go, what the hell happened here? Is this not built yet or something? They go, no, this is old house. I said, well, where did all drywall go? I says, well, there's a bunch of Indians, a couple of Indians that lived here, and they took it all. They sent it over to India. They took everything, so they had to rebuild the house. And this was going on all the time. And after the second one, I go, oh, I could recognize. Oh, yeah, Indian couple, yeah. I said, did they own a gas station? Yeah, they owned a bunch of them. They went back to India, and that's how it works. Oh, there you go, folks. Now you know the rest of the story. You know what's you're going to a lot of things are going to hit you in your head. Realization is going to be larger, and understanding what's really going on in this country and and why the U.S. does what it does, and why they react the way they react, and why they do things the way they do, is to protect um, the foreign and traders. That's all it's for. That's what the U.S. does. It protects foreign traders from who? You. That's why all the laws are restricted against U.S. citizens. It's you that they're protecting them from. Okay. Oh, thanks for listening to the 148th broadcast of the T Row Show. We will see you next week.